so you're ready to go.
All right. Welcome, everybody. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Marquette Township Board. Today is Tuesday, January 5th, 2021. It's the first meeting of the year, and it's just 6:33 p.m. We have a flag, Randy, that we can do the pledge.
Here we go. Here it is. Apparently, I think.
Who wants to do it tonight?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, John.
Great.
Amen. Beautiful job.
All right. If you would take roll call, please, Randy.
Okay, remember, announce the location you're at also. Trustee LaRue,
Present at 2082 Huron Street at my home.
you can just say Marquette Township, Pete.
All
That's
right.
Trustee Winslow,
Present, Marquette Township.
Trustee Everson,
Present Marquette Township.
Trustee Marks.
Present in Marquette Township.
Okay, Treasurer Johnson.
Present, Ishbing.
Clerk Rattari is present in beautiful Marquette Township in his office. Supervisor Durant.
Present in Powell Township.
Okay, staff present is Manager Kangas. Our attorney Roger Zappa is here. Our planner Jason McCarthy is here, Planning Zoning Administrator. And I see our staff planner Ryan Dietrichson is here listening. And a committee member is Mike Springer is here.
Okay, looks good. All right, do we have any emails, Randy, for public comment?
We do not.
Okay. Does any of our public wish to address the board before we get started? I'll give you a second in case you want to unmute. Okay, no public comment. No board member comment. So tonight's agenda has a consent agenda consisting of approval of regular meeting minutes of December 15th, 2020, and special meeting minutes of December 31st, 2020. We have checks for bills payable in the amount of $318,230.96. And our other reports and committee reports include the utility billing calendar for January of 21, the County Township Association 2021 meeting schedule. We have updates from 2020 on the Iron Ore Heritage Trail, and Peter White Public Library Township Advisory Council minutes of March 4th of 2020. A little delayed there.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call, Randy, please.
Okay, the motion is to approve the consent agenda as presented. So Trustee Everson.
Yes.
Clerk Rattari is yes. Trustee LaRue.
Yes.
Trustee Winslow.
Yes.
Trustee Marks.
Yes.
Treasurer Johnson.
Yes.
And Supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, and just so our public is aware, we don't normally do a roll call vote on all of our motions, but because we're running Zoom, we want to make sure that everyone is heard and we account for every vote. And in normal meetings in the Township Hall, we don't do that. We just say aye. So anyway, that's just information. I'm not aware of any conflicts of interest tonight. And we don't have any privileged comments. So if we can make one adjustment to the agenda, I'd like to have Mike Springer be able to give us a report for the Iron Ore Heritage Rec Authority. And if we could add that or change 8A is 8A1. And then we move down the committee appointment recommendations to 8A2. And if we can get a motion to accept that adjustment.
I'll make
So
a
moved.
Second,
motion
LaRue,
to
second.
approve the regular agenda as amended.
Support?
Motion and support, Randy?
Okay, the motion is to approve the regular agenda as amended. So Clerk Rattari is yes. Trustee Everson,
Yes.
Trustee Winslow,
Yes.
Trustee LaRue,
Yes.
Trustee Marks,
Yes.
Treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
and Supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, thank you. All right, as I said, no board education or privilege comment. Community linkage tonight, we've got discuss recycling options. You might have noticed in your billing calendar that there was some notes on the back about the recycling. I don't know if we have anything new to share. John, have you heard anything different?
Well, we haven't changed anything beyond what our original plan was all along. What we've done is we've enacted it for this Wednesday. Anyone attending the monthly refuse collection this month, being tomorrow, if you do have glass bottles and jars that you'd like to recycle, you can bring them with you when you go to the refuse collection at the North Country Transfer Station. We've looked at alternatives as far as getting a dump trailer like Negaunee Township did. Having a place to locate that currently is the issue, in that if we put it in one of our current parking lots, we know we are going to be cleaning up glass constantly. And we also know if we don't attend it, it will end up full of garbage, because that is inevitable. So we're trying to figure out another option that we can do for our residents that doesn't require 24-hour policing by staff and doesn't require consistent or constant cleanup of broken glass when people accidentally drop it on the ground. So right now, our best option is to provide that opportunity at the North Country Transfer Station for the people that are going up there for refuse collection. You can also bring it anytime that the landfill is open, straight to the landfill at no fee, or directly to North Country's transfer station outside of the first Wednesday, and you would pay a $10 minimum fee. I think it's 5 cents per pound, but $10 minimum. So you'd really want to make sure you collected your saved up your glass before you did that, if you were going to. So I guess the key for everyone to understand is there is a cost associated with this. Recycling is not free anymore. I don't know that it ever was. It's just the costs were maybe a little more hidden. And with the new single stream recycling facility coming online at the landfill, there was an assumption or maybe a miscommunication of some sort from somebody that led some of our residents to believe that glass was going to be collected curbside as part of the single stream recycling plan. That was never the case based on any information I've ever heard from the landfill. So I would apologize to anyone that was under the assumption that we were going to provide that curbside. And I certainly hope that they didn't get that information from me.
We have had a couple of contacts, John and I, in the last few weeks, misunderstanding that. So I appreciate you explaining all of that, John, because some of the residents weren't real clear on that, and they're kind of upset with Marquette Township because we haven't been as active as some of the other surrounding townships and handling it. But like John said, many of them are manned. They've got people out there managing this, and we don't have that luxury right now. So we'll keep working on it. We had another request for having someplace local in the township closer to the core for everything, for leaves and brush and other trash. And we have talked about this as long as I've been on the board, and we just don't have a good method for doing this yet. We don't have any property that we can just, put trash on basically in the township that either we own or somebody wants to donate. So if there's someone out there who wants to donate an acre, where we could put stuff or use it, that would be fine. Give us a call. But right now we're kind of in between. We've gotten containers thanks to grants that well, I shouldn't say we, staff has. Ryan headed that up and worked with John on getting a lot of our new containers. And if everybody doesn't have one, we can get one for you. And we do have extras as properties open up or develop or are sold. So the whole recycling idea is a little bit different than what everybody was thinking. So if we can just keep clarifying that, John can keep us up to date. Go ahead, John.
Just one point of clarification on the carts, Lynn, and Ryan can elaborate if necessary, but those carts will be delivered somewhere around the end of April, early May. And we are doing that to coordinate with Ishpeming Township to minimize the delivery costs. We believe that's the most affordable route forward for us. It is going to delay the rollout of these carts by a few months, but you may recall, we did not want to rush on this until we knew all of the paperwork was in order, because the second grant took a lot more time to come around than we had originally hoped. Negaunee Township, who already has rolled out their carts to their residents, they took a gamble and won. I didn't feel in my first year on the job I was willing to take that risk, and I hope you all would agree that that probably would not have been a wise decision, especially if we didn't get that second grant as we planned. So we're taking a little more cautious approach, but come the middle of this year, we will be at the same place as Negaunee Township, except for the fact that our monthly refuse collection and glass recycling collection will be at North Country's transfer station, not in our municipal parking lot. Negaunee Township has always done it in their municipal parking lot, and it works for them. I'm not sure that we have the same type of facility to recommend doing that here.
Okay.
Do they have,
Go ahead, Linda.
do they have a different hauler, Negaunee Township?
They do not.
So they have the same hauler as we have?
Correct.
Oh, interesting.
Negaunee Township staffs their monthly refuse collection the same way we do.
Okay,
It's just at a they staff it at their own property. We staff it at North Country's property because we don't have the suitable facility yet.
thank you.
Ernie, did you have your hand up?
No, I'm just
That's okay.
here.
Okay. Pete, did you?
Yeah, Lynn, if we decide to do something different, there are going to be additional costs to that. I think John didn't say that, but when you have it that at Negaunee Township, they have to come and pick up that thing and bring it over plus man it. So, we have to man it up at the thing, but we don't have to do nothing with hauling the trailer is full of stuff either. So,
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, somehow you have to pay to transport it to the landfill still.
exactly.
And, one of the other questions that we had received recently was, what's the purpose of the garbage rate increase if we don't have curbside recycling or curbside collection of glass for recycling? And I need to mention one more time, that rate increase was solely to offset the increase in tipping fees at the landfill. It's completely a pass-through cost. The cost of the additional dumpster for glass collection at the monthly refuse site is in addition to that, and we hope it's not going to create another budget issue for us where we have to raise the rates again next year. We will be watching it. We will be keeping a tight rein on the number of dumpsters we get every month to make sure that our costs are held in check.
We
That's
did
good.
have a small update, or a quick update. Well, let's see now, John, it's been 2 weeks, right? Or 3 weeks since we had our Superman meeting, our supervisors and managers, and we had an update from the director of the Solid Waste Authority, and then they had a fire out there, so things got kind of crazy, and we haven't had a nice, good, we questioned their rates, we questioned their budget again, we went through a litany of different questions on why they're doing what they're doing. So we still don't have a lot of that resolved because of, they've been pretty busy. So I'm guessing maybe this next Thursday, or John and I can maybe conference with Brad and see if we can get a few more answers on some of this stuff again. Try to stand.
Wasn't the meeting this week the one where Brad was supposed to come back to directly respond to some of those questions?
Yeah, I thought he was gonna send me the written answers and stuff, and the week's not up yet. Could still get him in the next day or two. So I wasn't sure if we were gonna see him this week or not. But we'll see. We'll stay on it. Ryan, were you gonna say something?
I just wanted to add to what Manager Kangas said, is that the rollout date for the carts is slated for May 3rd. And the only on top of that, there's going to be an additional educational piece, literature piece that's going to accompany the cart. And the thought was to advertise that glass collection at the transfer station. So there will be a little snippet in there accompanying the cart as far as the drop off for glass, unless that seems unwise to do so. That's all I've got.
Then maybe we could add that to the April and May utility bills on the back, even if we just took, a part of it, so we can give people a heads up that it's coming. If you can do a Post-it note on that, remind Brenda. Pete?
And how this thing all started is because when we first started discussing this, and it just seemed like they said, well, everything's going to one container. So everyone goes, oh, what, we're gonna put everything. And then they changed it. They changed it a couple different times. And we had a lot of discussions at the meetings, in Untitled Township. And sometimes they didn't know exactly what was going to happen. But that's where I think it all started. The residents thought that we could just throw it in a thing and get rid of it. But there's a reason why we have to do different things, I guess.
I think at the time too, everybody thought they were already recycling, if you're talking about some of those early meetings.
Yeah.
Anything else on recycling? We kind of got an update on that for everybody. All right. So let's move to assurance of organizational performance. And it's kind of preemptive, but Mike Springer has asked to be the Iron Ore Rec Authority alternate, and that's coming later a little bit, when we finish with this. But so when he emailed me tonight and asked if he could do the kind of an update, I thought it might be a good idea to stick that in real quick. So if you don't mind, let's see what Mike's got on the Recreation Authority's recent grant.
Thank you, Lynn. Basically, actually, Clerk Rattari, were you able to get that image and bring that up?
There it is.
Thank you, sir. Just one of the things that, our taxpayers pay millage for the for the Iron Ore Heritage Trail and the authority. And I think it's important for our taxpayers to, see what they recently have accomplished. And so what we have here is just recently they were awarded a passport grant for about $73,000. And that's going to be to create a parking area or a trailhead to access the trail near M35 and 492. So That's, even though that is not in our township, it's one of the things that is happening that improves the trail for all of us and our use. So that's basically all I had for tonight.
Wasn't there a second page too to that?
Well, you could roll it up a little bit there. There's just, it basically is an image of the property lines and the site plan. And
It's just more detailed, right?
yeah, that's just more detail. But yeah, it's, it's something to be excited about. And it's something for our citizens to know that their millage that they're paying is going for improvement of the trail. And you'll read through their, I attended their last meeting, and you just read through their minutes there. They're accomplishing a lot. So
I was just gonna point that
thank
out.
you for the opportunity to talk about that.
Sure, thanks for the info. Okay, so the next item up is to consider 2021 committee appointment recommendations to the road committee and the rec committee. So knowing this was coming, I had pretty much put that list together, but I didn't get it to you in time. I emailed it to the board tonight and to Manager Gerard, or yeah, sorry, Manager Kangas. So we could kind of talk about it a little bit. If you want to go ahead and make these these motions, we can. Again, you haven't had a chance to see them, but these are people who have already committed to re-upping, basically, the top ones, short of the advisory council for the library and the rec authority for the heritage trail. Everybody else is kind of just agreeing to go forward. So let me just point out, Glenn Johnson is still the representative for the Iron Ore Heritage Trail, and we lost our alternate. And when Mike heard that, he asked if he could take that position as alternate. And I jumped on it because we have talked to Glenn a few times about giving us updates over the course of the year. But I know in his job, he's awfully busy too. So we do get updates, usually their packets once a month, not every month, but pretty close to it. And then in some cases, Glenn and oh, my brain, what's her name? The director. She has come to our meetings too. Carol. Yeah, Carol, sorry. Okay, so anyway, that's why Mike's name is on there for the alternate with the term ending 3/21. Now, they do have a different fiscal year than we do for their committees and stuff. So that is a correct date. I did check with Carol, and their terms run over on April 1st. So that is correct, because all of ours end on 12/31, except for the board members whose terms end on 11/20. On November 20th because of the elections every 4 years. So we do have some positions that are not filled with the general committee, committees. I did not, as was mentioned right before the meeting, I didn't do the board liaison positions in this because these are actual appointments. When we have, all of our committees have liaisons from the board to the committee so that we get a report back for those of you who aren't aware on how committees work, because you might want to volunteer for some of these. We've got recreation, roads, and events. And one of our board members is a liaison to every one of our board committees. And they come back each month, the Planning Commission and the DDA, DDA would be. Road Committee, the Events Committee, the Rec Committee. So anyway, I did not type up a list for those appointments. So Clerk Rattari was suggesting that we did list those. They were discussed in the last meeting 3 weeks ago, but I can tell you who chose which committees. Dan Everson suggested recreation would be the one he would like to consider. Pete asked for the road committee. John asked to stay on the ZBA. And he said he would take the personnel committee and the labor relations committee as well. Again, these are not volunteer, some of these aren't volunteer committees for the public. They're internal board committees. Then Pete said he would be on safety and the events committee to stay on there. So if we wanted to have a motion to list those, Randy, if you think that's appropriate, go ahead.
Yeah, I would be willing to make a motion with those additions and they would all be in the minutes regardless. So if you just want to, I'll make a motion to approve those appointments. And they'll be in the minutes, of course, but
Support.
and the extra committees that aren't listed on here, election committee. The election committee, Lynn, would be trustee Marks and trustee Everson and myself.
Yeah, we didn't talk about.
Yeah, and you can list the other ones and send me a memo, but they'll all be in the minutes as amended.
There's something beeping.
And you had a support from trustee Marks, so.
Okay, sounds good. Then go ahead and do a roll call.
Okay, clerk Rattari is a yes. Trustee Marks,
Yes.
trustee Everson,
Yes.
trustee Winslow,
Yes,
trustee LaRue,
Yes, Marquette Township.
treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
and supervisor Durant.
Yeah.
Motion carries 7-0. So Lynn will get those to me and they'll all be listed in the minutes with the appropriate appointments and terms.
Okay, that sounds good.
Hey, Lynn,
Yes, sir. Go
I
ahead.
shot an email to, I sent an email down to Todd to come up with some dates for our different functions for, so we can get it all on the same schedule. So we all have schedules and that. So he said he would. So
Okay. Now, a lot of these,
he'll get
remember,
back.
okay. Remember when you get back into your committees, this is a new year. In most cases, you need to re-elect chairman and vice chairs and your treasurer or secretary in each of your committees. So just kind of remember that too.
I just want to get the schedule up for next year because, you know, community days is pretty set. The car show,
Mhm.
Santa Claus and the tree, and so we got them. Who knows what's going to happen if, you know, if they go through or not, but I would just like to see all the dates for all the committees and the functions in the township.
Mhm. Yeah, because we just passed
That way
our,
we can promote 'em.
our dates on our meetings and stuff. So yeah, that would be good. Okay, here, some of you can see, Jason's given us some notes in the chat. Bill, you might be correct that we would need, I don't remember the bylaws that we have two. Right now is two, we've got two terms open. So is that what you're saying, Jace, that, does it
Well,
say-
I thought we lost Pete and Dave and Mike Springer off of the rec committee, which left
Yes.
Todd Caruth. And that would be one, and it's a body of 5.
We haven't had 5 on there in a while, but let me look at my notes. Okay. Well, I'm going to appoint Tom shortly. And Dan was going to be on there and Todd. So that gives us 3.
Pete, isn't
Mm,
Pete on there also?
No.
Oh, okay.
So we
Todd?
have 2 spots open. It would be great to have some of our public get involved with our recreation.
You have another application from Mr. Tom Fury.
Yep, I have not gotten a hold of him yet. Yep, I did talk to Tom Bronken, and he's on here, and we're gonna mention him shortly. So yes, we do need members. That's right, because we ended up with 3 because everybody wanted to be on there. We have a couple spots to fill on recreation. One term ending 12/31/22 and another one ending 12/31/23. So let's shift to that a little bit because no, I'm wrong. Tom's going to go on the advisory council. The other Tom, nothing like having 2 Toms at the same time. Different Tom, yeah, Fuhr is interested in the rec committee. So that leaves 1 position. So we can, maybe I can bring him back next time. I will try to catch him in the next couple weeks and see if we can fill that spot. And he may want either the 2-year or the 3-year. Well, I'll give him the choice.
Oh, make sure he gets the 3-year.
Okay. And then the same thing with the road committee. We've got a couple positions open. One of them just is this year. It's just a 1-year term. The other one is a 3-year term. And these are kind of, I'm bringing these up because it's for the public. We're looking for the public to come in and give us a hand on recreation and roads. Many of the townships, 70-some%, voted for the road millage. And if you'd like to be a part of that and know how that works and work with the, I was going to say road cross. Well, the software anyway for managing the road system. Maybe you'd want to get involved with something like that. Recreation is very important, whether that's trails or hiking or biking or paddleboard. We've got 11 miles of Lake Superior shoreline in the township, 10 or 11, somewhere in there. Snowmobiling, skating, whatever, ice rink.
Trail connectivity,
Yeah.
working with regional, local, and national agencies. Yeah, there's lots that the rec committee does. It's a big part of our livelihood, clearly.
They're an arm of the planning commission directly, and then they report in, via the planning commission to the board. So it's a very active committee. And the events committee, the same thing. Pete and Todd have been working on that along with the manager, previously manager Gerard. Those are 3 important committees to keep our public entertained and informed and participating. So if anybody's interested in those, please let us know. So we could make, I don't have a road committee or rec committee. Yes, well, rec committee is Andrew completing his term. So Randy, would you put up that memo again that I sent tonight so the public can kind of see? And do we need to have individual motions on that, do you feel, for each?
No, I can just do it as a slate as listed in the memo, including the board ones, which you're going to get to me. So
I will, yeah. Okay, so we've got Todd Nordyke for events ending next 2 years, this year, next year. DDA, Todd Nordyke re-upped and Mike Springer did. And then, as I said, Mike Springer is an alternate for the Heritage Authority. And then Andrew said he would be happy to stay on another couple years for the rec committee and the advisory council. Now, Tom is on the line. He was, I don't have my full screen. Tom Bronkin, he's been in the township a couple years and would really like to, I take that back. That's the other Tom, I'm sorry. He's been on in 2 years. Tom Bronkin wants to be a part of the library, and on the conversation I had with him, I explained to him kind of how we were hoping that the liaison to the library might function, and he's all about it. He would love to give us periodic reports, take our concerns back to the library board as well as the advisory council, and bring their concerns back to us. And however that works, if Zooming is a little bit easier, but if he does it monthly, quarterly, or he submits, just a quick verbal update to me and I type it up or he types it, it doesn't make any difference, whatever works for him. So he did say if anybody had any questions for him, he'd be happy to answer them. I don't have my full board again because Randy's got the memo up, which is great. Oh, you got those already. Good. Good deal. Tom, did you want to share anything with the board?
I'd be glad to serve. See my role. I think that's what Lynn was talking about and what Andrew was talking about as a liaison, trying to get information to you a little sooner perhaps than it's been in the past, so that when they're planning something, you can have some input in addition to hearing about it after the fact. So yeah, I'd be happy to serve.
Anybody have any questions for Tom?
Yes, thanks, Tom.
Whoops, there goes my screen. Okay. Well, if you want to do one blanket motion.
Actually, we did that already, Lynn, at the first motion.
Okay.
So
All right.
so actually that first motion covers everyone on this screen. So,
Okay. So because you typed them in, okay, that's
Yeah.
fine.
so do you want me to save this and send it to you then?
Yeah, that'll be
Okay.
great. It'll be part of the packet then.
Yeah, and then what I'll do is in the minutes, I'll put all these in a list and I'll put the terms for the board members, which is 11/20, so
Of 24, yep.
of 24, yeah.
You need a second, Randy?
No, we already did it and it's approved. All these are approved moving forward, so
Okay, so we're done with that.
we're
Okay.
done with it, so. All
Good.
right.
Well, welcome new people, Mike to the Rec Authority and Tom to the library. That's excellent. And maybe we can fill some of those other 6 slots too pretty soon.
And then Lynn, you'll bring us new members coming like the next, if you got any more, you can bring them forward, yeah.
Yeah, I'll see if I can get a hold of the other Tom in the next 2 weeks before we meet again and visit with him.
Okay,
Sounds good, thanks. I don't want to throw too much at you at one time. Takes a lot of time too. So we don't have any draft committee reports because we've been off for 3 weeks, so nobody's really met. 9A is continued consideration of request for Home Builders Association use of Westwood Mall. Well, I'm glad to have Jason and Ryan tonight. I'm not sure what's transpired in the last 3 weeks, and manager and I were talking today about kind of where we are with this, and even Attorney Zappa and I visited too. We don't know exactly what the Home Builders Association is going to be asking for, or maybe they did already ask staff and we just don't know. So if someone's willing to give us an update where we
I
are.
will do that. Yeah, I had a conversation with Manager Kangas this morning as well, and I thought that it was a good idea to move forward with approving the application contingent upon ensuring that they abide by any DHHS or Marquette County, orders that might be out there for compliance. I think Roger kind of, indicated that at our last meeting as well. That might be something we could go with. And I feel comfortable with doing that. I wanted to give the board the opportunity to at least consider, what that meant, knowing that that event draws a lot of people, which is going to be great for the community, provided that, that level of activity is allowable at that time. So we're hopeful for that.
So what does this end up looking like? Is this inside, outside, both? Or
Yeah, they're proposing to use a portion of the interior for some vendors, and then a portion of the exterior for more outdoor orientated vendors. I suspect at some point, and what I'll request, and I told the fire department the same, is that once they get some kind of layout down, they will be sending us a copy of that we can then distribute to the respective entities. And I'm sure they'll be, posting out in the public too, so people know, where their vendors of interest would be located.
well, now because this is at the mall, do we need to approve this? This is not township.
Well, it's an event of public interest, and the ordinance speaks to that. And in a temporary, it's a private property. I understand that. I appreciate them reaching out. It's kind of like what we drafted with the rec committee with regard to, just having an application to let us know what's going on. It's not an expensive thing. It allows the fire department to be cognizant of the fact that there, is activity occurring that is outside the normal scope of what the retail is there or the other land uses that are there. And it's really just a housekeeping. It's not a big permit that we need planning commission review on or anything like that. I just, again, wanted to ensure that the health, safety, and welfare of the community was protected. I think the board probably concurs with all that. So we're comfortable moving forward with it, provided that they meet all the terms that are needed at that time from respective health agencies.
Because it's in April, so a lot can happen between now and then.
Hopefully.
Okay. Trustee Marks, I think you had your hand up.
Yep, I wanted to make a motion then, if that's what is needed, that the request from the homeowner builders association, we have no objection to that, provided that they meet the requirements that were outlined by Jason and the attorney.
I appreciate the motion. I don't even think the motion's needed, Trustee Marks. I mean, it's really a zoning administrator decision, but I appreciate.
Okay, that's fine. We don't need a motion. Let's just say we have no objection now and move on.
Okay, Pete?
Jason, the only thing I'm concerned about, as long as they, because they're gonna have big trucks and that with lifts and stuff like that, as long as they don't disturb the parking of the businesses that are already there. But I mean, it might be a stupid question, but I just had to ask it.
No, that's a good point. They had indicated that they're going to do some kind of circulation pattern through there and obviously herd people in and show them where to park. A little bit different scenario than we're used to at the Dome, which is where their customary location is. But the Dome wasn't willing to commit to that. And so they were looking for another location. I appreciate the confidence of the board moving forward. I realize I have some powers as a zoning administrator, but I also, as you've probably learned over the last 10 years or so, that I try to be as collaborative as possible and make everybody aware of what's going on. So that was just a case of that, but I appreciate the input.
As long as they meet all the requirements, Jason, you're free.
Yeah, we'll list that on the permit application. We'll provide a little memo to them or a letter following up with the approval.
Thank you, Jason.
Sorry. Dan, you had your hand up?
Yeah, that was my question, was how does this differ from the Dome? And, I was wondering why the Dome was not going to do it this year. I mean, obviously with COVID and everything else, but that's why what my question was to Jason was, how does this differ from what they normally do at the Dome? And how does
yeah, most of the Dome is obviously on the inside, and they're hoping for some good weather. Although I don't know if I count on it with the way the weather's going right now, about having an early spring and having some of those, on the exterior. But it's a venue that's certainly big enough. I'm not worried. Parking's certainly a good comment, but there's ancillary parking going on there. There's lots of space for them to spread out and to have a nice event. They talked about bringing in a food truck corral, so we'll be lined up with that perhaps here by the end of the evening. And I think it's a great event. It's going to bring a lot of people into the community. Obviously my concern is with what the current situation is in the emergency when that occurs.
What about a drop dead date if something changes? How do they, because they're going to start billing this pretty soon as an event, on posters or whatever.
Yeah, they're chomping at the bit because they need to get deposits on spaces and whatnot. So I think as long as, I'll cover it with Roger maybe on a quick phone call tomorrow, just what the language is. But certainly we'll cover from the top down whether it's CDC guidelines or the executive orders, if they're relevant. The DHHS probably is the more important one. And then whatever orders the county has out too. So we'll make sure we cover all those.
Okay, Dan, did you have a follow-up?
I did. How does this differ from what Dr. Songer was trying to do? And how do we make sure that we disapprove that? So how do we disapprove that and then approve this? How does this differ from what he was trying to do?
Well, that's a good question. And in some aspects, on general, I guess, case by case scenario, there's not a lot of difference in it, except for Roger can chime in on that.
Well, we had a moratorium on at the time.
At
Roger?
the time, well, we placed a moratorium on it. I
The
think
moratorium
situation-
was put in effect primarily because at that time, you had Governor Whitmer's executive orders were in effect. And one of those executive orders was especially ambiguous that nobody knew what it meant. There were two different categories of outdoor events in terms of how many people one type of event could have not more than 250, and the other type could have not more than 500. And it was extremely difficult based on the wording of that order. And Marquette Township wasn't the only entity trying to figure out what that meant. So rather than risking violating the order or initiating a huge COVID spread at that time, when the numbers were going up then also, Marquette Township put a moratorium into effect that did not outlaw or forbid outdoor gatherings, but it forbade outdoor gatherings more than 250 people, which was the smaller of the two that was discussed in the particular executive order. And the language, if I recall correctly, was something along the lines of concert spaces or similar venues. And there was a question whether a parking lot is a concert venue. And it was a decision on the part of the promoters at that point, after we put the moratorium into effect, not to proceed with the event because it just wasn't going to be feasible unless they could have more than 250 people. So we didn't ban all outdoor gatherings. We just put some limitations on it in terms of passing a moratorium that we would not issue permits for a period of time until further state clarification was received. The more recent orders that have come out, not so much the governor's executive orders, but the Department of Health and Human Services orders have eliminated some of those ambiguities. They are clearer and everybody has learned through the process. So it's not necessary to have that same type of moratorium or limitation because we received the clarification from the state level that the township was hoping to get in the meantime. So that's one of the big distinctions.
Thank you.
Manager Kay.
You may also recall that for a period of time, DHHS reduced that number from 250 to 25, I believe. That was the number, if I remember correctly, that we went with for the Christmas tree lighting. We couldn't have more than 25 people gathering at a time there, where we had the kids coming to get their little gift from Santa. And I would have to believe that things will likely be different by April. But if we don't give the HBA an answer soon, they will have to cancel for lack of commitment from the township to issue the temporary use permit. So I think really what we needed to do was ensure that the board wasn't interested in extending the moratorium that we already had in place so that Jason could take action on that permit application.
When does that moratorium end?
About 3 months ago.
Did already.
Elaine?
Anything on that, Pete?
And at that point, when the moratorium was on and the counts are rising, so everyone's getting kind of antsy, that's why I think we weren't too comfortable with it. And
Yeah, if you study the maps right now, we're in a pretty good spot.
Right.
And in my conversations with medical staff at the hospital, I believe there's only a handful of COVID patients right now. So yeah, hopefully we're on the downswing. All I'm saying is that as long as they abide by those current, effects that are in place, then we're good to go. If they somehow violate that and DHHS finds out about that, I don't think the township is going to be liable for anything. It's on private property. It's just an event that, would typically require a permit, just like, having Christmas trees out there for the holiday season. It's a event of general interest.
Oh,
you
I
have to
need someone to
ensure
get the power cord over there, plug into the computer here.
Well, you need it to plug.
Is it in the front or the
I got a
back?
power cord over there.
Good, Ernie, thanks. Roger, go ahead.
Manager Kangas is correct that outdoor gatherings have in fact been restricted to not more than 25 persons for a couple of months. So in fact, and there are other restrictions in place as well, depending on what is in effect when the event takes place, might completely still preclude the event. So that's going to place it in the hands of the health department and the Department of Health and Human Services and the promoters of the event in terms of whether it can be complied with. All this is doing is saying, if you can guarantee us that you are committed to complying with it, with any requirements that are in effect at the time, we have no objection.
Can I ask Jason a question, Lynn?
Sure, go ahead. Pete.
Jason, is it in the front or the back of the mall?
I'm thinking the back northeast corner,
All right.
but I could be wrong. It could be all over the front of it. I have no idea. I guess, well, I'll let you know. I guess my mind tells me the back northeast corner, but as soon as we find out what their kind of design is, I'm sure they have a preliminary already. So we'll get that and get it to the fire department and get it out to the public. And I'm
Right.
sure it'll be on all their proposals and flyers too.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anything else on that? Okay, looks like you're good, Jason. All right, next up, consider proposed zoning text amendments to allow for and regulate adult.
Uh-oh.
What's
Hey,
up?
Ernie, watch
I
it.
want to turn Ernie off there for a second.
Yeah. There you go.
I can't read and watch the screen. Thanks, Randy. Adult use recreational and medical marijuana facilities. It says second reading.
Yeah, thanks. This is a second reading. We've had no additional comments either for the good or the bad. I know that we've had inquiries, additional inquiries between Ryan and myself about folks that are interested in perhaps participating in the zoning language and utilizing it. So if the board was to move forward tonight with the approval, a notice would be put in the mining journal within 15 days of today and our tonight's decision, and then it's pretty much good to go. One thing that we do need to work on immediately, if the township board moves forward, is a fee schedule for the various permits, which is probably a little bit short-sighted by staff. Although I think we could probably just take a gander at what other communities are doing and come up with some kind of average or proposal for the board to consider. But that would probably need to be, I would suspect, an amendment to your fee schedule for the next meeting.
Okay, Pete?
Lynn, I'd like to compliment the planning commission because I attended a couple meetings on the marijuana, I think about a year ago. And I think they did a very intense study of all this. And it just, they had to be complimented on it because there's not too many subjects that we take it that takes over a couple of years. So thank you, Jane, and your planning commission.
Work on it most of the year.
Well, and Roger
Um,
too, we have outstanding legal counsel and he has kept us on the right side of things for a number of years now. So we come up with ideas and concepts and Roger ensures that they're constitutional, and that's what's important to us. So it's a team effort.
Yeah, you did a good job.
I
don't.
know Roger does want to comment on this. Go ahead, Roger.
Thank you. One point of minor clarification. You'll recall that at the last meeting, that was the last meeting of the year in December. You had just gotten, the board had just gotten in its packet the ordinance for the marijuana adult use facilities or establishments and medical marijuana facilities and so forth, and really hadn't had an opportunity to review that. And it's a very comprehensive, in-depth ordinance. There are also amendments to the zoning ordinance that have to take place, just showing in what districts are these going to be allowed and indicating that they're all special use permits required. So I had recommended that the board take some time to look at that in depth, because there are multiple options that the township board can do at this point. One of them is to say, it looks great, we're going to adopt this, we want to move forward. Or they can junk the whole thing and say, we don't like it, we want to send it back to the planning commission to consider X, Y, or Z. Why are you considering having this type of establishment in this zoning district? Or how come you're having this many establishments or facilities? So to just clarify what the zoning administrator was already indicating, there are some very specific statutory requirements in adopting an ordinance like this. We have to actually have two different publications. The first publication must occur, and it's a posting as well on the website and on the township hall door, indicating what the ordinances say as proposed. So if we were to have published that after the last meeting, that could potentially have been premature, because the board indicated they wanted some time to look through this. So the next step is going to be, and this can all happen very quickly, is to do that first publication this week in the Mining Journal, if the township board looks at it and feels it's satisfactory. Or that would not occur if the township board indicates that we're unhappy with certain provisions in it. So the next step is the first publication, then the second. So technically, the second reading comes after the first publication, and then the ordinance gets adopted, which presumably could happen at the next meeting as soon as. And then there is a second publication process that must also take place after it's adopted within a number of days. So that is the order or the sequence of events. I just wanted to lay out what those options are and what the next steps are in this process to move it forward as quickly as possible, because I'm sure everyone is anxiously waiting to see this move ahead.
So Roger, what is the board, what are we required to do tonight? Anything?
I looked at the minutes, which were a little bit unclear to me, but I'm not sure that there was actually a first reading of the marijuana ordinance itself, which is the health, safety, and welfare ordinance, as opposed to the amendment to the zoning ordinance, which is Article 2 and Article 15. Article 2 is strictly definitions. Article 15 is the nomograph chart that shows what can happen in what district. That was clearly a first reading. There has to be a first reading of the other ordinance, which if that didn't occur on the last meeting, it should formally occur now. And then the publication can happen at the same time for both ordinances. And it doesn't delay anything. In fact, I think it expedites things if we do it in that fashion. It's also complying with an attorney general opinion that's out there that has a slight conflict between the Charter Township Act and the Zoning Enabling Act in terms of the order and sequence of things here. We would be erring on the side of caution and being certain to comply with everything if we do it in that order. I'm sorry, that was long, but did that answer the question?
So you're thinking we need to put this on the next agenda as the second reading?
Yes, for both.
Okay. Clerk Rattari?
So basically tonight, I would offer up a motion then to accept accept the proposed zoning text amendment to allow and regulate adult use recreational and medical marijuana facilities as a first reading. And I would also include the first reading of the marijuana ordinance also. And then once that's approved, we could do the publication and then move along as Roger stated.
I'll second that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion and second. Any other questions for Roger?
I have
or-
a question. I
Go
have a
ahead.
question.
Go ahead.
We're approving the recreational plus the medical at the same time, or at this point in time?
Yes.
So
For a first
We-
reading.
For a first reading, right?
First
Yes,
reading.
that's correct. Yes.
so what it amounts to is, this is the first reading. When we come to the second reading, we can then relook at that and see if we want to move forward with it. Is that correct?
Well, you could, but this is the time, you can do that tonight. And that was kind of the purpose of having the 3-week interval between the last two meetings to, this would be a good time if the board wants to send it back to the planning commission, for example, and second guess some of the work that the planning commission did, or change the order of the application process, or do anything along those lines, because then if you do that at the next meeting, that sets us back because then we have to publish yet another time. Because we have to publish in the form in which the proposed ordinance is adopted. I'm sorry, is introduced.
So
I
we're
misstated,
voting
is introduced.
Okay.
We're voting on both items at this point in time to move forward in that.
Yes.
Okay.
Just to a second reading.
Well, adopt and then publish, and then we'd go to a second reading. If it's
So if there's
adopted.
something you want to change tonight, let me say, if there's something you want to change, tonight would be the time to do it before it's published.
Yes.
Okay. Who had their hand up? I saw a hand. Is it John? Okay, go ahead.
I think that we should approve the motion that's been made and move on to publication of it for that response. I think that'll help us enormously. One way or the other, the public opinion will have an influence on this board. And I think the sooner we get to that, the sooner we will find whether we've got something to work with or it's going to have to go back and be totally revisited.
The question for you, Roger, can I do both in one motion or should I separate it?
I don't necessarily, 6 of one or half a dozen of the other, it doesn't make much difference. Because you don't want to pass one of the, or move along one of the ordinances without the other. You would not add new, if you're going to reject a marijuana ordinance, you're not going to add a bunch of definitions to your zoning ordinance.
Correct.
So the two are dovetailed with each other, work hand in hand with each
Okay,
other.
so it's appropriate.
So Roger, if this question came up before, I don't know if it was at the meeting or not, but if we wanted to separate these to have the adult use separated from the medical side, how would that happen? Would we recommend that now? Does it have to go back to planning?
That would require a massive redrafting of the marijuana portion of the health, safety, and welfare portion of the ordinance, because right now it's drafted as one ordinance. The Planning Commission looked at that, spent hours and days looking at that issue, looking at other sample ordinances of what other communities have done, what seemed to work for other communities, what looked just confounding the way other people did it. This is what the Planning Commission came up with and is recommending to you. This board certainly has the prerogative of saying we don't like it and we want you, the Planning Commission, to reconsider that. This would be the time to send it back if they wanted to do that and have two separate ordinances, or only adopt, for example, a medical marijuana licensing ordinance or an adult use recreational marijuana ordinance, rather than having the two together. What many communities are finding, or at least some communities are finding, is that especially in the retail sales area, medical marijuana facilities, provisioning centers, and the retail adult use, I'm groping for the exact statutory term, they're getting concurrent licenses so that one entity can sell, or for that matter, can transport or can do multiple functions on both sides of the equation. In other words, both for medical marijuana and for adult use recreational marijuana, there are economies involved of handling both. So there's not, the Planning Commission, I hesitate to input what they thought, but my perception of what the Planning Commission's conclusion was is that it did not make a lot of sense to separate those two into two separate ordinances, because the recommendation was to allow both the medical types of businesses and the recreational types of businesses, and to allow them to co-locate or work at one address. Having said that, a business still must get two licenses from the state of Michigan, and they could be approved for one and rejected for the other, I suppose. So even if a business decides that they're going to build a structure on a corner of an intersection and apply for medical marijuana processing and recreational marijuana processing, they cannot do that even at the same address unless the state issues licenses, both types of licenses. They're different licenses. Your ordinance tracks that, so that the township would also require in that scenario, even if it's the same address, it also requires two licenses, so it mimics the state legislation on the subject. Again, long answer, but I hope it, yes, you can split it, you can send it back and tell the Planning Commission to start over, but this is basically what the Planning Commission spent some time looking at, quite a bit of time looking at, and that's what the recommendation is. But it's certainly within your prerogative to say, to reject that.
So when you said that they were directed to draft the ordinances for both, you're saying the board directed them to do that?
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Our original,
Well, to come up with a marijuana ordinance, and this is what they've come up with.
okay,
They looked at what all, they looked at, I couldn't begin to estimate how many different possibilities they looked at. that I'm aware of, and I wasn't at all of their meetings even.
Okay. My recollection is that we had a request for medical from the beginning.
Oh, that's not my recollection.
Okay. All right. Randy?
Yeah, when we basically directed the planning commission to come up with a marijuana ordinance. And when Roger's correct, when they went through it and did all their research and things, they basically found that it didn't make sense to separate the two. It's just way too much to do that. And in my opinion, it'd be foolish to do that. You keep them together and then you move forward from there. And the planning commissions, I look at their expertise for that, so.
Okay.
I'd like to call a question on the motion.
Okay. Go ahead, Randy.
I think we beat this enough.
Okay, so the motion is to consider the proposed zoning text amendments to allow for and regulate adult use recreational and medical marijuana facilities, and that will be a first reading. And for the marijuana ordinance, first reading. And the vote is Clerk Rattari is yes. Trustee LaRue,
Yes, Marquette Township.
Trustee Everson,
Yes,
Trustee Marks,
Yes,
Trustee Winslow,
Yes,
Treasurer Johnson,
No.
and Supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-1. So the next step will be we'll do a publication with the current text amendment and the current marijuana ordinance. And that will be posted in the paper and on the door. And then the second reading will be at the next meeting. Correct, Roger?
Correct. It'll also be posted on the website.
Correct.
Okay. I have had some people misunderstand that as I did too. Contact me. So that was my hesitation in voting. Obviously, it wasn't the majority of the township objecting, but they thought that they would be separate. Jason?
Just with Clerk Rattari, are you gonna put the publication in the paper, or is that something that you would advise that I do?
If yourself and Manager Kangas want to do that, I think that would be better than be expediting. It'd be if you, Manager Kangas, can do that, that'd be better.
Okay.
Give me a call before you do.
I will do that.
Just send me what you post so I can see it.
We'll get you the final.
Okay, we're good on that? All right, next up is to consider proposed zoning text amendments to allow for and regulate mobile food trucks. Second reading, it says. Are we in the same boat with this one, Rod?
Same boat, yeah.
Okay. All right, so then we need, unless somebody's got some questions, we need a motion to do the text amendment and the ordinance.
I'll make that motion.
support.
Motion and support. Any questions, comments? Okay, go ahead, Randy.
Okay, so the motion will be to consider to approve the proposed zoning text amendments to allow for and regulate mobile food trucks. And again, that'll be a first reading. I don't believe there's a standalone ordinance on this, Jason, right? It's just a text amendment to what we have. Okay.
Okay.
So we'll publish what we have for the changes in the text amendment. And then the next time it'll be a second reading. So Trustee Winslow,
Yes,
Trustee Marks,
Yes,
Trustee LaRue,
Yes.
Trustee Everson,
yes,
Treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
Clerk Rattari is yes, and Supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries 7-0.
Okay. And we'll see those again the next agenda. Do we have any public comment? Okay,
I have no emails, Lynn. I have no emails.
thank you. Any announcements? Anything anybody wants to share? I have one. I'm officially retired from the hotel. On December 22nd, we signed the purchase agreement and sold it to a couple local families. And we've been retired for 2 weeks.
Congratulations.
I know. It's pretty exciting. It's pretty chaotic. Don't ever buy a business or get a business and then try to sell it. Hey, Pete, holy Toledo. What a job.
I won't, yeah, the hard one.
Yeah, it is. So
And
the new,
don't think you're going to have a whole lot more time to just do what you want either, because it's not like that. Not with me anyhow.
I'm hoping a vacation would be nice. It's been 15 years, 15 and a half. So we're hoping grandkids, you know, the whole story. Be able to spend time, do stuff, go camping or whatever. So that's my announcement. Randy? Sorry, Pete.
Yeah, I'm going to put on the screen here. I'm going to send you guys this link eventually when I get out of here. But we had a website meeting the other day, and as the same time, that company that's doing our website has what they call Civic Clerk, and it might be able to integrate into our website and make things a little bit easier. So anyway, I'm going to send this link to you guys and have you look at it. I did send a email to them to see what a proposal would cost if we decided to go with this service, but I was looking at it and the manager looked at it. Andrea is going to get a chance to look at it. And I think it's a little bit more of efficiency we can do with our agendas rather than having our secretary stand there for a half hour doing, putting together these things. From what I can understand here, you just push a button and it's done. So save a lot of time. And it's going to be easier for me for doing minutes and tracking motions, hopefully. And so hopefully we can get a decent proposal from these folks and we can move on. So that might be something you see from me down the road in a future agenda, but still looking at ways to make our, operation more efficient and more electronic without paper, and be able to track things a little bit better. And if that can integrate into our new website when it's done, that'd be great. So, so anyway, that's just my 2 cents that I'm looking at that, and hopefully you'll have a decent proposal from those folks in the next couple weeks.
Good. Dan?
I just have one. I don't know whether to do it under board member comment or announcements, but we've got a well-renowned person that lives in our township named John Gilbert that has gone out and spent, I couldn't tell you how much money on buying gift certificates, $25 gift certificates for all first responders in Marquette County. This includes firefighters, EMTs, paramedics, and I just want to give him a big shout out and for what he has done for this community, not only for the first responders that received them, but also for the merchants that are going to benefit from all of these gift certificates. So he's helping all of these merchants in a very tough time. And I just wanted to give a big shout out to John for that. And I think he's a wonderful person.
How awesome is that?
Thank you.
all of Marquette County.
How many people is that? Any idea?
I have no idea. I mean, he purchased gift certificates in Marquette Township for the Marquette Township firefighters and EMTs. He purchased gift certificates in Ishpeming Township for theirs, in Negaunee for theirs. He went all over the county and bought all these gift certificates for different restaurants and like, I couldn't tell you. I don't even know how many he purchased, but it was just a wonderful thing for him to do, to thank all the first responders and to give a big boost to the merchants that benefit from them.
Hmm. That's amazing.
I think, pardon me,
Go ahead, John.
I think we could do a little, I think that Dan is right, and I think we could do just a little bit more. I would like to ask that our supervisor and our manager somehow get together and come up with a letter of thank you to formally do what Dan's trying to do tonight. I think it would just be from our township, but it would acknowledge a great deed by a wonderful citizen. And I think we could do a little bit more than we've done in the last few minutes with a letter.
I'd like, if that happens, I'd like to include the fire chief in that too.
Yeah, that's fine. That's just a request. It's not a motion.
If we could swing it, it'd be nice to have board member signatures and the fire chief, not all the employees and everything, but at least the principals.
John is our upsider.
Yep. Hell of a nice person. I mean, I just amazes me what he's done.
He has come a long way, John has, the way he worked before and stuff like that. And it's great. Thank you, John.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Doing it, Dan.
And I personally, as receiving one for both the township and the county rescue, I have sent John a thank you notice just on my own. But like John Marks was saying, it wouldn't hurt, I guess, to have something come from the highest officials in the township also.
Okay. Anything else on that? Any other announcements? Okay. Randy, you
Go
want
Team USA. They're playing in the Junior Worlds tonight.
7:30.
9:30.
Oh, I thought it was 7:30 our time.
Randy would probably know more, but I think it's all the top 19 and under players in the world. And anyway, Canada, US tonight at 9:30. So
this
is
is
a little late tonight.
Oh, good.
A great hockey game.
Mm-hmm.
And Lynn, you got to do the manager's report first.
Oh, I did. Yeah, because I had written all over it. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Manager.
You have my written report. I think we've discussed some of the contents of it already earlier in the meeting, and I'd be happy to entertain any questions regarding it or any other activities that have occurred since the writing of that report last week.
Any questions for the manager? You want to do a quick update on where you are with staff? Because
as of right now, staff remains working remotely, and we will remain in that condition until we get to a point where we feel we can safely bring everyone back in a cost-effective manner. You may recall we had talked about a month or two ago, the costs we were spending just on cleaning supplies was, I would say, getting a little bit out of hand. And overall, I would say the remote work status has been working pretty well. The daily reports I'm getting from the employees have been actually, I still say some days eye-opening to me, because they do a lot of things that I wouldn't otherwise be aware of had I not asked them for these daily reports. So I really appreciate the fact that we're doing it this way because it's allowing me to understand their jobs better too. I guess we don't have a plan in place yet for bringing them back to the office, but we're going to keep monitoring what the DHHS and County Health Department are indicating as best practices. We certainly don't want to put the township in a position of coming into trouble with the other state agency involved here, and that's MIOSHA. You may recall they have fines of $7,000 per incident per person per day if they find us in violation. We did incorporate a policy that was advised we incorporate by our labor attorney. So I think we're safe there. We've been following it to the best extent possible. We've been doing the daily screenings for anyone coming into the office, and we're rotating staff that can rotate so that we're not putting any particular individual in jeopardy of not staying on top of their work. And really, kudos to Jason and Ryan too for setting up weekly construction progress meetings to keep the rest of us up to speed on what's going on as far as development in the township. Jason and I will be touching base tomorrow morning to decide if we're going to have a staff meeting based on the activities tonight. And I think we probably will have a staff meeting tomorrow. So we're still having opportunities to meet as an organization on a regular basis, basically every other week, simply to talk about the progress that you as a board are making. So we're still moving. It's just we aren't as accessible to the public. And I would like to reiterate one thing for the public too, and that is if you're trying to contact us and having trouble doing so, the number one thing you need to do, if you get an answering machine or a voicemail message, leave a message so we know to call you back. I've had no less than 3 hang-up phone calls on my voicemail this week. I don't know who to call back if there's no message. So I really strongly encourage anyone that's struggling to get through to anyone on staff. We've put a lot of changes in place here to make everyone more reachable, but we can't always answer the phone when it rings because we're either on another line or in a meeting on a Zoom. So I guess I just really want to remind the public, we're still working. We just may not be immediately available to pick up the phone when you do call. So give us a way to get back to you. We will.
Good. Thanks for that, John. Any questions for the manager? Pete?
Don, when they start giving out the vaccines, would our community room be open for using that for that?
I certainly think we should be considering that as a municipality as an option. Nobody from the health department or county emergency management has reached out yet, but if the board is interested in providing that facility as a vaccination location, give me the word and I'll reach out to the health department or Teresa Schwalbach tomorrow and let them know that we're available to give them another facility if they need it.
Well, I'd like to see it for our residents of the township to start with. You know, it's an elderly group, and you know, it makes it easier. They don't have to travel too far, get too big of a line, and that. So that's what I just thought that might be easier for them.
It may be different now, John, but remember that question was asked of Ishpeming on opening up community rooms or their basketball courts or whatever to facilitate some of this. And it was premature then, but it could be different now because they said no, not really. But
I think it's already in the emergency preparedness plan that the county has, what facilities will be used for that kind of thing. And I wouldn't be surprised if our community center isn't on that list, but if you give me the word, I'll reach out and let them know that it's available if they want to use that facility.
Sure.
But with that, saying that, we'd have to be careful too of, bathrooms and everything else like that too. As far as sanitation and that.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a protocol they'd require, because maybe that's what you said, not.
We were able to hold a election in there. I'm sure we can do the same thing for a vaccination.
Yeah. Just trying to keep it in mind, that's all.
Mhm. Dan?
Just, I just found out today that all of our first responders in the township that want to get vaccinated are going to be able to be vaccinated on Friday. And we are all supposed to go up to Bell Memorial to have that done. And where it's going to go from there is anybody's guess with the amount of vaccines that they have. And I don't know when it's going to get out to the general public. But I know Friday it will be for all of our first responders that want it.
That's good.
Anything else for the manager? Okay, now we can do motions.
Okay, so first motion of the night was to approve the consent agenda as presented, and that was approved. The second motion was to approve the regular agenda as amended, and that was approved. Third motion was to approve the slate of committee recommendations from the supervisor, and that was approved. And the fourth motion was to approve the text amendment and the marijuana ordinance first reading, and that was approved. And the fifth motion was to approve the mobile food truck text amendments and for a first reading, and that was approved.
Okay, thanks. So for right now, the second readings are the only thing I have to carry across for the next agenda. Any other board member comment? Linda?
I just want to do a huge shout out about the ice rink. It's up and running and I know it's being used, and it's great to see that 60 years or so after the first ice rink that we still have one in Marquette. The first one was thank you in Marquette Township, right? The first one was thank you to our Lions Club way long ago. So great to see it being used.
Want to join it?
In skating? Are you going to come skate with me?
No, the Lions Club. No,
Oh, you got to move it, Pete. I still have the jacket.
And everything else.
Yeah.
Man,
I just want to add one thing regarding the ice rink. Credit to Amanda and Andy for getting that up and running in the short window of cold weather we had. We kind of had a feeling opening it last Thursday, going into a holiday weekend, the end of the holiday break for the kids, that the ice wasn't going to hold up very well. And we were right. It got used very heavily. And unfortunately, there were some significant repairs that had to be made yesterday morning. And we haven't had exactly cold weather since then. So those repairs are not fully healed yet. So the ice rink has not been reopened, and we don't know how soon we can. It's really going to depend on how cold it gets at night here the next couple of days. So I'm glad they had a few days that they were able to use it really heavily. I guess we'll just see when we can get it back open.
Pete?
John, you mentioned hockey. Are that the older kids or the younger kids playing hockey over there?
I think it's kids of all ages, from young kids to adults.
Okay, I prefer that northern, if they're over there or anything like that, organized team, don't use it, because we don't want to ruin it. Neither kids, younger kids use it now, when it's just kind of questionable ice, so they don't ruin it. They're not going to ruin it, but the hockey players will give it a hard time to do it. So
I think you're going to have a hard time prohibiting that this year, because organized teams don't have an indoor option currently.
Yeah.
the kids that are normally playing during scheduled ice times are looking for ice time just like the average citizen is. So I agree with you. Those kids generally are on the indoor rinks and taking up all of that ice time. This year, of course, is different. So we're going to have to deal with it to the best of our abilities and hope that they all are willing to share the one facility that we have here in the township.
Yeah.
Okay, Dan?
Yeah, I was just wondering, John, have any of these organized teams been approached to see if they want to possibly volunteer to help maintain the ice, when the conditions are favorable? There may be some free labor out there that we can get to help flood this and keep it maintained if they want to use it.
We have not initiated that effort, but it's a good idea. I'll have to try to figure out who the contacts are there. Maybe Clerk Rotari can help me out a little bit. We'll see. Maybe we'll get some volunteer efforts.
Might be worth a couple phone calls.
Lynn?
Hmm?
What would happen if we put music on the ice and have some kind of a skate night or something like that with music or something? Just an
Somebody
idea.
Bring a radio down there.
I know what'll happen. We'll get a bunch of complaints the next day at
No,
the
you
zoning
might.
department.
No, Jason, you invite them people to skate with you.
Okay. Okay, Pete. Always bringing a bulldozer to the party, Pete LaRue.
No, it's something that, I still want to see a movie out there in front.
We got to get that roof on first, then we'll.
Yeah. All right. That's what happens when you get old. You think of all these things you would like to have done before.
I like your style. You kind of come in both guns going, and you always have great ideas. Some of them we can entertain, and some of them we'll have to wait on. But yeah, I think that's a good idea.
I just like to see adult night and then just have some nice soft music and skating, and I don't know, might go and it might not go.
Do you play goalie?
Huh?
Do you play goalie?
I would, because there's not much space when I'm there. There's not much space on either side.
All right, what else? Any other board member comment? One more motion then.
I would like to make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll support.
Okay, go ahead, Randy.
The motion is to adjourn. Trustee Everson,
Yes?
Clerk Rotari is yes. Trustee LaRue,
Yes.
Trustee Winslow,
Yes.
Trustee Marks,
Yes.
Treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
and Supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Okay, motion is carried 7-0. I got 8:11 PM.
Yes, sir, we do.
Nice to see you. Bernie, nice to see you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, Ernie, hopefully you